Okay. Well, look. I mean, if you've got an institution, they'll dictate how they want to be communicated with. They'll probably be on the board, and if not, they'll want board minutes and management accounts and all that kind of stuff. So you do what they ask. If you've got a small number of investors, the chances are that at least one or two will be active, and I would give them for the really active ones, I give them about sort of at least a 1 or 2 monthly update. If there's a problem, work out what that problem is and how you think you might resolve it, if it can be resolved, and then be timely about telling them. Because the worst thing that you can really do is think, oh hell, there's a problem. I'm not going to talk to them. I hope it's going to be all right. And eventually they call you up and they ask you how it's going, and you say there's a problem. Then they lose confidence that they're actually getting a stream of information about the important things going on in the business. So that if you do need to go back to them for further help, either some assistance in terms of their time or their contacts, or possibly some more money, they don't necessarily know they've got the full confidence in you. So I would say, if you do have a problem, work out what it is and what you think you're probably going to do about it before you sort of call them, but keep them informed on a timely basis. I've had up to sort of 60 or so investors, and then you clearly really value them and you want to keep them informed, but there's a balance between keeping them informed and inviting them to call you up and email you in with 101 different suggestions. I think just respect the fact that they've given you money that means something to them, and they're curious to know whether they've done something good with the money, but they're also excited about an investment. In some far sort of more sophisticated way, it's a bit like sort of going to horse races and putting your money down. It's not only because you hope that it's going to win the race, but you actually want to see the race being run. So when you're talking about reasonably small investments of £1 million or so less, people have got a real sort of identity with that, and just really want to see the business working and going well and just being involved in the story. So that's part of the value that people get out of the investment. So give them that value. Managing an investor's input really does depend on the situation. You may be going for them for help. It may be that you've got 3 investors and they've all invested because they actively want to help you with the business. So that's a very different situation from having tens of investors. I think you write to them with news of what's going on. If you want their input, say, I'd specifically like your help or your input on XYZ. If you don't, give them news updates, and some people may feel they've got something really valuable to say, in which case they'll let you know. And again, most of these people are really sensible, so if they call you up or email you with an input, the chances are it'll be certainly worth listening to. And I think that as long as you respect the fact that it's that it's going to be interesting and worth listening to, even if you decide not to do anything about it, get back to them and say, yeah, that's really interesting. I'm going to think about that, or I thought about that and I'm not going to do anything because, I don't think that's right, but maybe you could help me with, change it around a bit. So, they're good business people on the whole, and therefore they're going to say something good. I mentioned earlier about the idea that a lot of people seem to sort of have this idea that just because they give up more than 50% of their business, if they do, then they lose control of the business. Or the other way around, if they give up 30% of the business, that they've retained control. And that's not necessarily true. I mean, there are these things called voting rights, which are sort of quite clearly sort of important. But you'll encapsulate either in the shareholders agreement or the memo arts what rights people have. On the whole, if you've got 10, 20, 30 or so investors, those investors can't really expect very many rights outside of just being able to use their vote. There will be a few investors, especially if you've got an institutional investor, who will insist on certain rights. It may be the ultimate power of veto over certain decisions. It'll probably be either driving or power of veto over an exit, things like that. And you need to be very careful about which rights you give them and which rights you retain for yourself. I've pulled off quite a few investments with a large number of investors, and these people are very well connected and generally sort of pretty powerful people, and they're great people to go to for help. So let's say you're after sponsorship. Send out your sponsorship pack and say, we specifically have a requirement for sponsorship of this type. If you know any businesses or if your own business is in the market for XYZ, can you either please consider it or pass it on to people you know? We had the launch of Peter Pan show back at the beginning of the summer, and we've just about to launch Peter Pan show for the O2, and we've got 60 investors that we can send out our friends and family offer to for the first sort of few nights, which are likely to be softer than what we hope to be a sellout run. So we send out a friends and family offer to all the investors, and that's 60 of them, who then send it out to another 10 to 20 people, and suddenly you've actually got a pretty big base of people who are actually helping you make sales. So you've got assets all around you. Your investors are just one class of them. Work out how you can really put them to your best advantage, because that's what they want to see. Most updates will have a bit of good news, a bit of bad news. In which case, if it's just a general sort of cut and thrust of business, you just give it a sort of generic update. Here's what's happened in the last 2 months, quarter, or whatever is appropriate. Or there's a particular thing, like we just won. Sorry for the plug, but we just won the Startup of the Year award, and it's a perfect thing to go out to your investors and say, we're delighted we just won Startup of the Year. So that's just a little sort of snippet in a sort of a 2-line email with some links. There may be some investors who've got a right, for example, to management accounts or board minutes, and in which case that's just fairly clear, you just send it to them. I would say otherwise it would be something like a chairman's update, or if it's a slightly smaller business, just update from you or whoever runs the business. And it's just it's a sort of sensible moments. You've just come through a start period, or you've just completed a trade show, or you've just finished a year, or you've just produced the accounts, and so they're sort of, or you're just planning. You just completed your planning for how you're going to start exporting to the States, whatever, and you've got your plan set up, and then you're ready to go. And those are the moments that's a fairly sort of obvious to you when they arrive, that you send an update to your investors. And there's nothing wrong with sending it by email. Well, it depends. If it's absolutely disastrous news, you may need to pick up the phone and talk with or meet with somebody. It may well be that you may, I don't know, need to raise some more money or need to position the business in such and such a way. And if there's an investor that you've got to know who's got those skills, make sure that you get the most out of them. If they may end up being a mentor for you, or they may not be the right mentor for one reason or another, but they're going to be well connected, and you say, I need a mentor to help me with personnel issues or whatever it may be. And the chances are that if they don't know somebody, they're sufficiently motivated by their investment that they'll know somebody who knows somebody. So definitely make use of your investors, because they're part and parcel of the whole thing called business.